we've got a session right now with the guys from Orange Cyber Defense, Sensepost. I think Ulrich is online. Ulrich, are you there, bro?
Yes. How are you guys?
We're doing all right, man. How are you, man?
Yeah, it's not so quite early morning anymore, but doing quite well.
That's good. What time is it there anyway? Like 9 something or 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that?
Yeah, 9:30ish.
That's not too bad.
So not too early.
Not too early. How's things been, man? How's the team? How's everybody doing over there?
Yeah, I think really good. Obviously, given COVID and everything, it's been quite an interesting 18 months or so, especially from the pen testing side. World's been a bit of a changing thing. Obviously, everybody testing remotely now these days. Training is remote. Everything's gone remote. So yeah, but we're all doing good. I think we, as a team, have adjusted quite well to all the different use cases, and in general, the team has grown. Obviously, us becoming part of Orange Cyber Defense. So we've got a lot more talent, a lot more people to work alongside us. So no, really been doing good. And there?
How's the team now? I mean, like, how many people are you guys? I mean, at the moment.
So I don't have an accurate number for you, but so the Sensepost team, we're about 40 people. But we obviously, as part of the Orange Cyber Defense group, we've got representation in more or less every European country, as well as in the rest of the world. So our technical teams has quite significantly increased, and with the addition of more of the defense side of things, we've got teams in SOCs, we've got teams as part of CERT teams, research teams. So it's been quite an expansion and quite a journey for us to get our hands on more research and more interesting things to play with.
Hey, you're mentioning about training just a while ago, right? Like, if I didn't misunderstand, I think you guys are supposed to be doing a course at Cyber Week, right? Like in November coming up, right?
Yeah, we're doing 3 courses at Cyber Week.
Uh-huh.
We tried to actually do it or arrange for it to be physical, and it seems that unfortunately, South Africa being at the bottom end of the world, we're still on the bad list. So we might not be able to travel anymore. But yeah, we're doing 3 courses with you guys at Cyber Week. Bit of our introduction to hacking course, and we're presenting our Wi-Fi course as well as our web application hacking course. So quite excited about that.
So, we're hoping that obviously by November things will be different and you guys will be able to travel. But I mean, for the folks that are not maybe, concerned about coming in person, they'll probably be able to join this training remotely, right? But what have you guys done to kind of cater to those folks, right? Because, learning at home, watching talks on Zoom kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, and it definitely does. And it also sucks for the trainers, to be honest. One of the big issues that we've experienced over the past year and a half has been the whole concept of training to the void. So you'll sit in front of your screen. It's a black screen. Nobody wants to turn on their cameras. I don't know, maybe feel that they might be judged for being in the pajamas or anything. But it's been quite a tough thing to manage. So to try and keep user engagement, really keep it up and have people engage and properly interact with the course. So the ways that we try to counter this is really to try and realign our courses to be a little bit more interactive. So asking a lot more questions, putting people not on the spot, but allowing them to interact directly with the trainers. We also rely on stuff like Discord, purely just one-on-one conversations or doing different polls to try and get people to actually interact with the trainers at the end of the day. But yeah, it's been a tough journey for the whole switch to virtual training. We've been blessed in the fact that, at least from an infrastructure perspective, our training, obviously we've been training for about 20 years, pre my time, obviously. But with that, some of my predecessors have built quite solid solutions on cloud-based training platforms. So, which meant when everything needed to switch virtual, we didn't really have a big problem. So everything was literally just, let's add Zoom and add Discord as an additional solution to this, but everything is still over the browser, literally got hacking labs, everything from that perspective. So it's been quite a interesting journey for us to make the shift to virtual, but with the addition of stuff like Discord, and more direct user engagement, it's been quite well. Our training has been doing good. We've been still getting good reviews and everything from all the students. So hopefully we're still making a difference out there.
How are you running the Wi-Fi hacking courses over over the internet, like over the cloud?
So it's actually very interesting. Dominic White, or Singe, as you guys would know him, a few years ago, he's obviously very much into the Wi-Fi hacking scene, and he decided to build Wi-Fi labs in the cloud. So utilizing a few Docker images, along with other technologies that exist, he managed to set up a virtual Wi-Fi lab utilizing like infrastructure as code network cards, allowing that to send traffic, and then we just pre-program traffic within the networks so to simulate it. So obviously your signal strength within the Wi-Fi labs are extremely great, which is not exactly how it would have been in a real world scenario, but it's still there, and it still allows us to teach the Wi-Fi hacking stuff all through a browser, literally terminal in the browser, still set up your network cards and go ahead and actually hack everything.
It's very interesting.
Do you think that, a bit like now that everybody is kind of staying at home, right? Like keeping the audience attention and making sure they're actually following along, right? It's pretty hard. I mean, if you're sitting in a classroom, I can physically see if you're not paying attention or if you're not physically sitting there, right? But as you just mentioned, most folks have their cameras turned off. How do you know that you're actually still presenting to them and they haven't just gone to walk the dog or something? You know what I mean?
No, it's definitely a tough thing. The best way we do it is to obviously try and have them be engaged with us, either through Discord chats then, or through literally potentially even monitoring of like more of a gamified style. So that's one of the big changes what we're trying to make for future trainings, is to bring in the idea of a CTF, which is a standard thing in the industry, but to bring that into the actual training for trainers to see, well, where are people, how are they tracking, how are they doing, are they actually with us or not? So currently we're doing this via polls and various means for them to indicate where they are and how they're progressing. But there is still potentially the real opportunity for people to join a training, leave their screen up and go and play some Xbox or something in the background. And we won't really know if that's the case, but we really do hope that the people who join the training are actually with us. But I think that talks to a very different point at the end of the day. We've seen quite a change in the nature of the people that we do train. So in the past, it was a lot more around the curiosity. So people will join any course potentially just because they have a slight interest in a specific technology or in a specific realm within the security industry. But more of late, obviously since COVID and people from organizational perspective, budget cuts and all these things, the people that actually join the courses are more of a, I want to say purist, in quotes. This is not a legit term, but I think the people that actually join our trainings these days are really actually interested in learning this stuff and really taking away the core takeaways from the courses, which is really cool because we get challenged quite a lot on the trainings to answer more specific questions and deep dive more into the technologies itself. But hopefully that also results in better quality training at the end of the day.
I mean, I think one of the main questions that we always get asked as organizers, right, especially from the folks that are paying for the training, so the organizations that are actually paying for their guys to go, is how do we ensure that they're actually attending, and that they're actually learning stuff, right? So, I mean, checkpoints and stuff, and questions that you can give them are one way, but I think gamification is really the future because there's no better way to test, right, than actually giving you a real life example.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the idea of having people go through the process of understanding something, then verifying that they understand it either with a questionnaire, or maybe a flag or something that they can submit. I think really that's the future for people to be engaged throughout a training session. It is a bit harder when it's instructor-led training. So I think that's where the future of, and what we've seen in the industry currently is the major shift to more self-paced training courses or self-module courses where you get a short module. We all have busy lives these days, so sitting potentially in a 2-day, 4-day course isn't necessarily the best option for people since working hours has also shifted. So the idea of switching more towards like, hey, here's a short module on, for example, Wi-Fi specifically, but it's a subsection of that, and we'll only teach this one module, and allowing people to do that on a self-paced basis where they can guide their own progress. I think that's the future we're moving to, and we're seeing this across the industry with various competitors and organizations releasing new trainings like this. But it's definitely something that we're also keen on going after. So watch the space in quotes. We are working on some interesting things on our end. But yeah, I think definitely the idea of keeping people engaged and having them apply the knowledge that they've learned from something theoretical has been our practice forever. The idea of having hands-on labs, hands-on things that you can actually do, getting your hands dirty, hand on the keyboard, that's the core idea of the Sensepost trainings, at least. Best way to learn something is to get dirty with it, get in there and figure it out, struggle,
Exactly.
and eventually overcome the challenges.
Do you guys, in your opinion, right, are you worried that the industry as a whole has changed so dramatically, like the way that we consume knowledge now, right? And the way, I mean, like we're on Zoom right now, and we have like people around the world kind of watching the stream. Similarly for trainings as well, people, as you mentioned, they have a busy life, they tune in when they want it on demand. It's like that Netflix generation, right? Like, oh, 5 minutes, I want to learn something. Do you think that in 2022, 2023, even when we go back to quote unquote normal, it's not going to be the same simply because, people expect a different style of delivery, right? Of content, of learning as in a different form. Do you think that's so?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think everything evolves at the end of the day. So I think the big thing is we need to adjust with it. So from a training perspective, obviously it's one of our key focuses as an organization is to share knowledge and to educate others, share the knowledge that we gain through active engagement with our clients. But yeah, I definitely think the delivery method of that is on the change, and I don't think it's going to ever stop changing. I think for now, the next best thing is the on-demand culture, like you're saying. And I think the culture shift within the training industry, not just in security training, I think in general, all training these days, people want a short 5-minute thing that can learn them something quick and easy. The big problem with the on-demand culture at the end of the day is one can potentially learn something very quickly, but you might not understand the core fundamentals behind something. So getting back to the roots of still ensuring that even if you produce a 10-minute video teaching somebody something, it's to still allow them the resources and accessibility to other forms of information so that they can still solidify their knowledge around it and actually still go and practice and test these things so that it is actually usable in the real world environments.
What about justification? I mean, like the cost of the trainings are still high, right? I mean, even though you're learning it from home. When we first pivoted, I mean, due to COVID, right, we did everything online. We tried to bring the pricing down, as in to try and make it a little bit more affordable. We figured that, you're not flying anywhere. You're not actually going to a hotel, right? The costs are significantly less for us to produce it, right? Yet we find that the industry as a whole is still charging ridiculous sums, man, for the training that's delivered over Zoom, right? But the quality, I mean, the takeaways just aren't there to justify those costs. And I'm just wondering, how you think that's going to change, right?
So I think the whole idea of, so at the end of the day, specialist training for specialists are quite expensive. It's someone's time that goes into the research, into the producing of the courses. So I think from the core perspective, the delivery or the content or the information that gets transferred doesn't necessarily change. And that's what someone is potentially paying for. The delivery method it's up for grabs. It can be physical, it can be virtual. So I think as long as the outcome justifies the sum, then it should be what it is. But definitely we've seen a shift in at least the costing or the pricing of courses all around, because one can go do a short 10-minute video on YouTube for free versus a half-an-hour session with someone you pay X amount for it. So the costing has changed a bit, I think, due to the fact that delivery has changed. So like you say, there's no additional cost for us as trainers potentially to fly somewhere and to engage with hotels and stuff like that. But I definitely think from the content side, the content doesn't really change. We keep on evolving. We keep on producing better and better quality content. So that's theoretically what we pay for at the end. So if anybody does pay for training, and they don't get the quality from that, then that's definitely a serious discussion point to be raised. But as long as the quality equals the value that you pay for, I think that's a reasonable request, since it is people's time and energy and research that goes into it.
I mean, you mentioned cost, but I mean, from a human resource standpoint, right? I think a lot of the pushback from trainers has been the fact that attendees actually want more one-on-one time. And part of the reason why you fly wherever around the world to attend a training is that chance to actually talk to the trainer face to face, right? Is that one-on-one. And if that's missing, then justifying that X dollar, it kind of like starts having a diminishing scale, right? And then of course now, with the fact that the training or the trainer can kind of deliver it from the comfort of his home, more customized content seems to be a request that we're getting a lot, as in there are certain customers that want the same, let's just say hands-on hacking fundamentals course, right? But they want it fine-tuned for their industry, you know what I mean? Like more tailor-made for them, right?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of requests for us as a business as well to deliver custom content for organizations. And there's potentially a opportunity there for people to readjust and deliver more custom content. Obviously, the core concepts of the courses that we teach, we try and aim to have it already specialized into various different categories and various different modules that we deliver. So customizing even further to that is fine to some degree, but there's also still a time versus output level to this. At the end of the day, we utilize our actual penetration testers as trainers. We don't have any dedicated trainers that can just be on demand. So we literally pull people off of projects, which they're doing for their clients or our clients, and push them into the training side because they deliver the real world knowledge, the stuff that we utilize on Monday, we can train on Wednesday and still talk about the same type of stuff that we see in the wild. So I think switching to customized training it's still not an easy thing. There still needs to be time to do that for customers. But it's definitely not something that's not an option. Usually with our more direct training, so if we deliver training directly for a customer only, so the customer comes and says they want training for 10 people in their organization, usually the live interaction between us, even over Zoom, even over virtual training, it still aligns to the needs for them because it's one-on-one for them as an organization. The type of questions that they can ask us as trainers is very specific to their use cases, their scenarios, and we can still produce answers that actually fits those needs and engage with them. So it's not a thing of, oh, well, now I'm remote, now I can't engage with you and properly answer your questions. It's actually more so because people aren't distracted about everything else that's going around. So they can be more deliberate in their questioning, which allows our analysts to actually be more deliberate in their answers.
Fair. I mean, for like fresh grads, right, who are unfortunately graduating in the time of COVID, right? Like, do you have any advice for them? As in, like, they're going to enter a work industry that is going to demand from them certain knowledge that doesn't get taught to you in school, right? Is there anything they can do in the interim just to set themselves apart so that when they do enter the workforce, they're not suddenly at ground zero and like, I don't know anything, send me for training, you know what I mean? Just like, not helpful.
No, definitely. I think the big thing so like you mentioned, I think there's a lot of people, we're actually seeing quite a ramp up in the amount of entry-level entries into the industry itself. So people starting out a career in InfoSec. So with that said, there's a lot more people wanting the base fundamentals to start a career in hacking and penetration testing. Even on the defense side, people starting out careers in the SOC industry. But with that said, I think the best advice that I have for anybody starting out a career in this is understand that penetration testing and security is already a specialization on top of IT as a whole. So getting back to the basics is definitely the first step for anybody. So understanding the TCP stack, understanding the internet, understanding the base fundamentals behind HTTP, before trying to go and hack it, understand what the concepts are, what the bases are, before just deep diving into, oh, well, I'm going to hack the planet, but I don't know what a terminal is. So it is unfortunately a thing we've seen quite often is people join our hands-on hacking fundamentals course, for example, and expect us to teach them purely the basics of what a computer is and how it works. And it's not to say that we won't accommodate our students on that. We definitely will. Like anybody is welcome to join any of our trainings, and we'll try and adjust our approach to that to accommodate them. But there is some fundamentals that is required. So understanding what a computer is, how it works, understanding a little bit about what a terminal is, or have at least seen or heard of it is definitely a bit of a requirement before thinking, well, I'm just going to go and hack everything. Understanding the basics is definitely a thing. So for graduates, people starting out a career in the penetration testing industry, is make sure you've got a solid Linux fundamentals foundation. Make sure you understand the core technologies utilized. Maybe set up just a legit lab for yourself, not anything vulnerable, but go and install a server with, Apache server on it, and make sure you understand the concepts of how to set up a web server. Make sure you understand how to set up a domain controller. So getting back to understanding the basic principles will definitely help you to identify the potential areas where you can go into and where vulnerabilities could potentially exist in organizational networks, in web applications, even in Wi-Fi. But without having that knowledge applied, where you first understand the things, you can't understand how to attack or potentially protect it. So this speaks about a concept that I've been very passionate about the last few years, is the idea of defense through offense. So just as we need to understand what you're going to attack before you can attack it, one needs to understand the attacker's mindset before you can potentially defend against something. So those two-way streets of knowledge is definitely important in learning and educating yourself going forward.
Hey, so for Cyber Week, right? You guys are, I mean, if all things go well, we'll expect to see you guys in person, right? The Orange Cyber Defense team is going to come down, right?
Definitely. So if everything goes well, and if we can figure out a way to not quarantine ourselves for 14 days before coming in another country, except for South Africa, apparently that's the case at this point. We need to travel from South Africa to, Egypt, and stay there for 14 days and then travel to Abu Dhabi. But if that changes, we'll definitely be there. I know we've got a team from our Orange Business Services. We'll probably set up a small booth there, and we'll try and be there either virtual or in person as well. So we'll be looking forward to chatting with anybody who comes by, and hopefully see some people in our trainings and actually help share knowledge again.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. We've got our fingers crossed, man. Like, hopefully everything works out fine, because, November isn't that far away. But I still remain hopeful that the situation will be fine. I'm always glass half full, right?
Definitely needs to be, eh?
If you guys do come down, can we see maybe a Wi-Fi hacking village or something?
Yeah, I think we can definitely do a bit of a demo or something when we're there. Especially if we're there in person, I think we'll definitely showcase some cool stuff. I know Dominic White and Michael Kruger, Cable Thief, they've been working on some interesting things lately in Wi-Fi. They did a talk at DEF CON recently around a tool, a whole thing they called assless chaps, which is all about why MSV chap has been broken. But yeah, definitely we've got some new tooling that came out of that. We'll definitely be able to showcase some interesting things.
Awesome.
Sounds good, man. We're looking forward to it already, bro. Like, I mean, if you guys can come down and run a wireless hacking village, I mean, that would be like phenomenal, man. Number one, we haven't seen you guys for ages. But number two, like, all of Sensepost stuff is always top notch, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we can definitely discuss something like that. We're always keen to share knowledge where we can. At the end of the day, we learn, we hack, we train. That's what we do.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, bro. We'll let you get on with your day. Thanks again for chilling out with us and just spending some time just shooting the breeze, basically. Yeah,
no, perfectly. Thank you very much for everything. And I hope if we do see you guys, we'll at least get some chance to get some of those coffee that you've been brewing on your side.
Yeah, for sure. We've got some bags over here, man. We'll send them to you, man. Give me your address. We'll be glad to send you guys some coffee. Say hi to Dom for us as well.
Will do. Good luck with the rest of the conference, and hopefully see you soon. We'll catch up in the meantime.
Awesome, man. Take care, brother.
See you, man. Take care.
See ya, bro. Ciao.